On this week's episode, we follow 4 different hunters on their sheep hunting adventures from the high desert of Nevada to the backcountry of British Columbia. 4 hunters, 4 species. The Grand Slam is awarded to sportsmen that harvest all 4 of the North American wild sheep species: the Rocky Mountain bighorn, the desert bighorn, the dall, and the stone. For the majority of the hunters on today's show, you're witnessing their first step towards the Grand Slam. So while you keep your fingers crossed hoping of seeing your name printed on a sheep tag someday, sit back and relax and experience the Grand Slam this week on the Best of the West, your long-range hunting authority. Our first sheep hunt takes us to Fairbanks, Alaska, where we find Troy Sessions taxiing out for his self-guided dall sheep hunt.
Unleash the beast. Just another one of the tricks of the trade here at Best of the West. I've got a Super Cub on wheels, Tundra tires. We're getting ready to go on a solo dall sheep hunt way up into the mountains here. This is wild country, folks. It's a 7.5 mile grind to the base of the mountain before we start going up the mountain. I'm excited, I'm jacked, I've been working out, getting in shape for this trip, and the excitement is just overwhelming right now.
As a skilled bush pilot and avid hunter, Troy has access to some of the best hunting areas that Alaska has to offer.
Probably going to see some rams here real soon. But
having scouted several potential areas in the weeks leading up to this, Troy feels that this area will provide him the opportunity at a mature ram. With the plane anchor down and an electric bear fence turned up, it's time to start the journey upriver into sheep country. It takes 2 full days of hiking upriver to finally get into sheep country. With opening morning just hours away, it's crunch time for Troy to locate a potential ram for the morning hunt. As an evening storm rolls through, so does a band of rams. The sheep are only 600 yards away from camp, and it looks like at least one of them is full curl. Troy will watch patiently to see where they bed down for the night. Opening morning for dall sheep in Alaska is starting to look pretty amazing. One thing is for sure, Troy is definitely going to be counting sheep in his sleep tonight. After sneaking into position, Troy can only see 4 of the 6 rams from the night before. Only seconds later, Troy locates the full curl ram only 100 yards away. With the younger ram on full alert, they could bust at any moment.
Ram down. This is a do-it-yourself hunt, DIY, baby, at its finest, and look what I did. Man, he is just a beaut.
When the Best of the West returns, it's Rocky Mountain bighorn hunting in Colorado. The Best of the West is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation, Gunbroker.com, Cryptech Camo, The Best of the West Shooting Systems, Defiance Custom Actions, Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable, Huskama Optics, and LongRangeStore.com.
Started out, I guess, about 20 years ago when I finally started applying for sheep tags in quite a few different states, Colorado being one of them. This last year, my wife called me and said, "Hey, your refund check's here from Colorado." And when I got home, I went to look at the mail, and I'll be real honest, I noticed it was glossy paper. And the first thing that ran through my head was, please don't let me have applied for a U tag or some other tag that I wasn't supposed to. And lo and behold, when I opened it up, I was fortunate enough to draw the only non-resident sheep tag for a ram in unit S12. We basically started out early in the morning, left a trailhead, was walking in. It was absolutely fantastic. It's September 19th, the elk are bugling, the leaves are changing, and let me tell you, it was picture perfect. Nice crisp morning. Friend of mine that I had met on this hunt while up here, Kurt, had actually had a tag here 3 years ago and had harvested a ram in the same area. And he knew some of the spots that the sheep really like to hang out in. And so as we made our walk in there, he stops and looks up at the hill and he says, "Do you see what I see?" And the funny part for me is I had just looked up and saw like 3 cow elk. And just as he said that, I looked up and I saw a bull step out into the opening. And I threw up my 15 pair of binoculars, and surprise, surprise, here's a bull elk. And I looked at him and I said, "Yep, I see what you see." And I looked back at the bull elk and he said, "The 2 rams?" And I was kind of shocked. I looked at him, I threw up my binoculars, and I said, "No, there's 4 rams." And then I did one swirl with the binoculars. I said, "No, there's 6 rams, all of them legal." And at that point, things got crazy. And at that stage, it was, okay, we got to get the gun set up. I already had the binoculars set up on the tripod, so I hit the rangefinder. It was 744 yards. As we started discussing it, the conversation went to, okay, we can't go up to the right because there's a herd of elk up there that we just looked at. We heard another elk on the left bugling, and the rams were basically right in the center. We couldn't go forward because if you get too close, then basically you're underneath the sheep and you can't see them. So really we had no other opportunity to get closer. I would have really appreciated having a shot probably 200 to 400 yards. But with Huskama Optics, I practiced shooting at 400, 700, and 900 yards. And with this technology, you could make ethical shots at that range. 744, I didn't feel it was that big of a deal. I got down on the gun, I looked at my coefficient sign up there. I noticed basically it was gonna be probably, because of the angle, more of a 700 yard shot than 744. I dialed the scope to 700, I got behind the gun, I took a deep breath, and I squeezed the trigger.
He's down.
Down?
He's coming to us.
Where'd he go?
Oh, he's down.
He's down?
Oh, he's down.
Kurt, you the man. That was so awesome. That was awesome. Woo, 744, baby. Huskama Optics. Yeah, we're in it.
He's down.
Like this one because of his wide flare and heavy bosses. I mean, geez, I can't hardly wrap my hands around there. And it was 744 yards uphill, so we adjusted the Huskama Optics, gave it about 30 yards for the uphill angle, pulled the trigger, and the next thing you know, he was coming down the hill. So produced this beautiful, we think either 7.5-year-old ram here in Colorado, and my first ram, and I just can't be more happy. So, wow, awesome.
After the break, it's off to the high desert of Nevada. Right here on the Best of the West, your long-range hunting authority.
the ability to start your Grand Slam quest with a desert sheep is just unheard of. You know, James was incredibly lucky on drawing this tag with the points that he had here in Nevada. The desert sheep is probably the most coveted tag in the world. I mean, it's the hunt that people want.
Most people realize the desert tags are the hardest to draw, and so that's what it makes a very, very special animal. A lot of mistakes that some of the sheep hunters make going from a rocky to a desert is the size difference. They don't realize that they're a third smaller. They're quite a bit smaller, they're a harder target. And they live in some pretty tough terrain. They're hard to get at. And we ran into some hunters yesterday that basically saw where we were going and said, forget that, we're not going, it's too far, it's too hard. So you have to be willing to put the boots on the ground, cover the distance, and not be scared of climbing uphill and taking some pain. So that's kind of separates the men from the boys, the people who want to hunt desert sheep. It's a lot of fun.
Well, the first morning of the hunt, before we left, I brought out my tea leaves from Hawaii. It's a spiritual thing in Hawaii, and it's supposed to bring you good luck. So I tied on leaves on all the four-wheelers and on all the trucks, and put a tea leaf in my pocket, and we headed out.
Each day, James got closer and closer to notching his first sheep tag. On opening day, James passed on a young ram. The following day, James snuck in on an incredible ram. But the ram was covered up with ewes, and James didn't take the shot, not willing to risk injury on a ewe. James watched the desert sheep of a lifetime run off the mountain. The next day, his ethics were rewarded with a small band of rams spotted from over a mile away.
Had a ton of time to evaluate, and yes and no and back and forth, and I think James finally, the sheep kind of turned towards him. It must have winked at him just right or something, but you know, he made up his mind that it was time to pull the trigger.
Lined him up in the rifle, in the crosshairs, and took my time and made probably one of my best shots of my life on a super trophy.
Got him.
No, he got him.
See him stumbling, about to go down. Flip. Good shot, James. Look at that. Tumbled down the hill. Look
He
at
made
that.
a perfect one-shot kill, and he ended up with a nice animal, and I think he's rather excited. I know I am. I had a blast and wish it wasn't over, wish we could keep doing it.
Good job, brother. Yes, sir.
Congratulations to James on him filling his truly once-in-a-lifetime tag. I'm glad we were part of it.
Woo! Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good job, John.
Good shot.
This has been a
good
hunt
shot.
of a lifetime, drawing a desert sheep, fulfilling the tag, getting a beautiful ram, meeting some new people, making some good friends, and really happy, and it's going to be really happy when I get back to Hawaii and share these moments with my family and friends.
Here, I gotta do it too.
It's off to British Columbia in pursuit of stone sheep when the Best of the West returns. The Best of the West is brought to you by the Wild Sheep Foundation, Gunbroker.com, Cryptech Camo, the Best of the West Shooting Systems, Defiance Custom Actions, Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable, Huskama Optics, and LongRangeStore.com. For more information about the products and gear used on today's show, please visit longrangestore.com or call 1-866-754-7618.
This is a difficult hunt. I love stone sheep hunting because the harder you work, the luckier you get. Some days you strike out, don't find anything. Some days you get rained out, snowed out, blowed out, fogged out. I think stone sheep are very challenging to hunt, but if you know what you're doing, you can have high success. You just have to know kind of in an area where they're going to be. This was an area we've never been in before. We never fly it, didn't scout it. I just, based on some friends, based on some history of the area, we figured there'd be some sheep in here.
My name's Andrew Bromley. I'm from Kamloops, British Columbia. We're up here in northern and remote British Columbia, chasing stone sheep and mountain goat. I like hunting any species of big game in North America, but stone sheep is extra special to me for a few reasons. In my opinion, they're one of the marquee big game animals here in North America as far as remoteness in the wilderness and the challenge itself in harvesting a mature stone sheep. I started my quest chasing stone sheep about 10 years ago. I've never killed a stone sheep personally, so this is my first trip this year going after them in the Less Than One Club.
Next day we hiked hard, but not crazy hard. We got up on top, found goat tracks, maybe a few sheep tracks, and then right before dark we were finding a camp spot, and then Andrew looked up and spotted either a small ram or a ewe right before dark. We set up camp. The next morning we got up and I was in a hurry. I had to go take care of morning toiletries, and I looked over like, oh, sheep, rams. And then T stepped out of the tent and I think they saw him. So they spooked, not bad, but went over the hill. We got our stuff gathered up. We didn't have packs or anything. Grabbed the spine scope, tripod, rifle, T's camera, and took off. Well, we were looking and looking, and all of a sudden we got just past where they were, and I looked down and spotted 2 rams. So we made a plan, figured that the one was for sure legal. We got down and the rams came by at about 240 yards.
In a matter of 2 seconds, I was out of the Less Than One Club.
He's down. He's down. Did I tell you shot the wrong one? That's what you call a hunter.
So the one thing that I'll never, ever, ever forget as long as I live is looking through the Huskama optics at my first stone sheep when he came out of the top of the basin. I truly will never forget that. It's etched into my mind forever. There's an old saying that says the year that you start sheep hunting is the year that your ram is born. That's probably true for me. I think hunting isn't everybody, but I think other people, it clicks more on an emotional level, which it really does for me.
Oh, he's legal, man. Oh, he's gorgeous. You're not going to go to jail today. Legal on age.
You've challenged yourself, you set a goal, you've gone after it. You haven't given up when you're faced with adversity.
Woo! Nice, huh? That's what I'm talking about.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, he's great, man. Deep. That's like a perfect stone sheep. This is a tremendous stone ram. He's 9 or 10 years old. I'm gonna say he's 10 and a half. Some people call him 9 and a half. Everything you want in a ram, good mass, good conformation, great hair, nice tips. You know, he's got everything. Healthy ram, but he's getting older, and you want to try and shoot 9+-year-old rams.
Pretty lost for words right now. It's a lifelong dream of mine. Just want to thank Brian Martin T for sharing this experience with me. Say hi to my family at home. Pretty emotional experience, and I couldn't be more excited.
Good man. He's beautiful.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of Best of the West. No sheep hunt would be complete without a quote from legendary author and sheep enthusiast Jack O'Connor. There is no halfway. After his first exposure, a man is either a sheep hunter or he isn't. He either falls under the spell of sheep hunting and sheep country, or he won't be caught dead on another sheep mountain.